speaking of working hard and looking for work, this is an article on jobs, and it says keeping your options open could be hurting your career. So if you're looking for work, this is a good article to think about. It's in the Harvard Business Review, and I had always thought that diversification was key when it came to padding your resume, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, you don't want to make up an experience, but you want to have as many experiences as you could get to really strengthen that resume and make you look like a desirable candidate.
Like different types of jobs, or?
No. Different, well, maybe, but I had always believed that it wouldn't make a difference if it showed that you had sales, perhaps, in the car industry, and then you had sales in the insurance industry, and then you had sales as a refrigerator salesman, and that it was perfectly fine to have a lot of diverse interests. But here, this writer, Daniel Gulati, says, I often see the people who've created the most options for themselves continuing to select the one that keeps the most options open. Over the long term, that's a career strategy with diminishing returns. He says, the lure to stay general is strong. For starters, the intellectual challenge of constantly jumping from industry to industry can be exhilarating. As one management consultant framed it, why would I ever work in one industry for the next 20 years when I can work in a new industry every other month? And he says, plus specialized positions can be hard to find. But he says the generalist faces career risks too. First, by staying a generalist, you're actually limiting your potential and narrowing your options the long run. I think he means in the long run. Imagine a marketing consultant experienced in industries from farming to financial services being asked to run a $200 million budget for a big bank. Rare also would be the strategy consultant tapped for a CFO role at a Fortune 100. It's a very good point.
And I guess, the titles you have, and they add up to something, right? It should be adding up to something. So you're either building on it, you can go a lot of different directions, and if you start at one place, if you want to acquire new skills, they should continue to add to that specialization, because a lot of those specializations get a lot deeper.
Yeah, so one argument I would have against this is the example of Meg Whitman, who had been with eBay, and then I can't remember what large company snapped her up next, but they were nothing like eBay. So I think a lot of times when you reach the very top, it shows you can master something well, and it really doesn't matter what industry you're in, unless it's something where you really need to know the nitty-gritty of it, But this guy makes an interesting point, too. He says filling a niche early in your career can help you stand out at a time when competition can be brutal. But then he goes on to say, as a specialist, you'll be able to convince potential employers of your ability to deliver quick wins without hand-holding, a crucial advantage in today's business environment. And there's something to be said for that, too. No matter how good you are in sales, there's still that learning lag. So even if you've sold cars for 20 years, you might be the best car salesman in the world, but if you want to turn around and sell refrigerators, is somebody really going to be looking at you, or are they going to want the guy who's been selling refrigerators for 20 years?
Yeah, I think it makes your resume stand out a lot more. Mm-hmm. If you have the exact skill set, and that's what it looks like you've been doing for the last 3-4 years, you really do stand out over anybody that's in sales 20 years.
So in here it says he recommends you specialize by discovering your passions and work to amplify them and put them into your job as much as possible to hunt for jobs that really reflect who you are and what you're interested in.
It's always hard. That's always a hard decision to make.
Well, plus, how many kids have grown up and said, gee, I want to be a finance analyst when I grow up, or, wow, Mommy, I want to be a banker. At what point do you start making, there are kids in college who still don't know what they want to do.
That's when I was starting to make decisions. That's a wrong time to make decisions.
But very common. It's very common. It's so hard when you're a teenager to really set your goals.
I think you have some big dreams, and then you forget how much school you have to go through to achieve them.
Very true. Well, here he finally says, there's a question of how much do you specialize. He recommends to be alert. He says if your role lacks challenges or if you're disengaging with the content, you're probably being dragged too deep. It may be time to find something on the side that stimulates you, or conversely, to dig further into the aspects of your role that you're most engaged with. Boy, that's a lot of jumbly speak. What he's basically saying is, if you start to get bored, then you're probably not in the right field. But he says it's a difficult decision, and I would agree. I don't know how I would handle that. I'm very happy with the career paths that I've chosen, but I have to admit that mine have been all over the place too, although I've been known as a consultant now for the last 10 or more years. But still, it's a form of management and a form of sales, and I do sales also, and it's quite the jumble.